Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next couple of hours, along with Nick.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. And Gal is here with us
Good morning.
from cold Toronto.
Indeed. Very, very cold outside.
Our
Not
numbers.
recommending to anyone.
Our number is 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And today's show is made possible by vMix Software, by DudeInIT.com, and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. Yeah, had a little bit of a glitch this morning with vMix and with Facebook, and Nick just solved the problem, and we cannot stream to vMix to Facebook at this point. So stay on one of the other channels. Anyhow, it's cold here too. It's freezing rain outside. It's all white, but it's not snow.
So that means Wake County is going to be closed for the next couple of weeks.
I actually hope that, later today it's supposed to rain. It's supposed to sleet until about 11, 12, and then rain. So we'll see if it's going to wash everything off or what's going to happen. But yeah, tonight it's probably going to freeze again, and it's not going to be fun in the next few days, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's all right. How now here, you're there. Is that the first time you're in Toronto during the winter?
No, we've been here in February back
Okay, so
a few years ago.
So you went outside and walked. How are the
Yes.
streets? How do they keep the street?
Everything's clean.
The sidewalks.
I mean, there are a few backyards that still have snow from the last time it snowed here, like probably a week ago or something like that. But everything else is just people are walking outside, people are driving. There's not a
Is it because they are efficient in cleaning it up, or is it just because it melted away?
no. This is like systematic
Wow.
cleaning and cleaning. Yeah, this is a city that lives in snow. What three months out of the year probably, like constantly, and another 3 months of maybe, right? So it's cold here is the constant. I mean, they have 3 months of like nice weather, right? Where the nice weather is our probably winter. So
Oh, nice.
mm,
Very, very nice. So you had an interesting experience this. I don't know if you want to talk about it at all.
I can talk about it. It's not a problem.
So tell us what the thing.
So the company I work for, every second week of January, there is a huge kickoff event, sales kickoff event. All of the salespeople and professional services and some people from engineering and support, they gather together and meet and discuss about what's going on this year, how we all did as a company the year before, and
Mhm.
what are the plans, the marketing plans, basically, right? The sales plan for the next year, discussing how to approach customers, existing customers, new customers.
A
What is
sales
the
meeting.
message?
Yeah.
Yeah, a coherent meeting. And sorry about the noise. And uh, since COVID hit, right? The COVID hit literally a month after the sales kickoff of a month and a half after the sales kickoff of 2020,
Mhm.
and 2021 was the remote one, completely via Zoom. And this year, every single employee, we are 2,000 employees
Mhm.
globally. Every single employee got in the mail a package with an Oculus Quest 2. And what they did during the sales kickoffs, they did a few social gatherings in a virtual space that allowed people to reconnect. Uh, I mean, I have colleagues from Israel and from Europe that I've worked with and stuff, and the only place I would meet them regularly would be once a year in these SKOs. So this was an opportunity to meet and interact in this virtual space. It was an interesting experience. Say, it's it has a very different quality than Zoom. Video is nice, but this, because you have other ways of interacting, and there is something to be said about being present with another body, even though it's just an avatar of a person uh, that moves their head next to you, moves your hand. You can go around. You can both go and look at something together. Um, uh, when you're close to a colleague, you speak with them, and the audio is local, right? And if you're to the right of them, then you hear them from the other side. It's very entertaining that way. Then they did some social, like a presentation where you're seated in a virtual auditorium, and person in front, he can walk around and move and stuff. So it's different than it has a different quality than watching just a webinar on Zoom. Um, and the idea is that this is going to be used throughout the year uh, within that virtual space that they've created, meeting rooms and regional offices, which have some traits from the actual offices. So you'll identify the space. It's not that they've recreated the office completely, but they did create some common spaces, uh, some signature common spaces with like an amazing view or something like that. It is.
Now,
It is definitely a gimmick, but that gimmick also has some very interesting traits, and I am very intrigued to see how this is going to develop and whether it's going to be widely used throughout the year. Because if it
now
will, and it will provide some, physical or a bit virtual, a physical presence. um, I think it would show that this was a good investment from the company to try this. So it's gonna be interesting.
let me ask you this. Oh,
Mhm.
Nick, do you want to say something? Oh, um, remember we were talking some months ago about the fact that the problem with the VR is that you have to have a Facebook account.
Yeah, but
So
what I did
how
literally
did
was create a Facebook account just for that,
so
just for the
every
Oculus experience.
so every employee had to log into their. It's not like you can have one account to gather everybody together and everybody logs into the same account.
So using the headset itself
Yeah.
and interacting with the store and all that, you need a Facebook account. This is exactly like buying an iPhone and you must have an Apple account,
Okay.
or buying an Android and you must have a Google account, right?
Okay.
So this is the same thing. But as with everything, right? You can still create multiple accounts theoretically, right? I mean, it doesn't. Let's. I'm completely disregarding the end user license that says I must be
Whoa,
a
whoa,
real
whoa. Hold on
person
a second. Hold on a second. You
here,
can't
because
disregard a EULA. Hold on.
hold on, I didn't finish. Let me finish. Because they completely disregard, right? Uh, Preserving those rights that I have on my end of using something. They want to force me to use something for a specific use. I'm going to create an account for that
Mhm.
specific use. The fact that I'm not using my real name,
Mhm.
I mean, they'll need to figure out how to deal with that.
You're not.
The Facebook account that I've created specifically for the use of the Oculus and the Oculus Store, right,
Mhm.
is currently completely disconnected from me. But I gotta say, right, it wasn't easy to set up. Completely disconnected. It's associated with a Gmail account that isn't associated with the rest of my accounts. That Gmail account, uh, I think, I think that Gmail account specifically is associated with my work phone, like the office phone.
Mm.
Because when you create a Gmail account today, you must associate it with the number, because they do some sort of human verification process.
Yeah.
And once you use the number, you can use it probably for 2 or 3 accounts, and then they block that number.
You're talking about
So
for
you
Google?
can't, yeah, Google. So you
Yeah,
can't
they've
create
had that.
unlimited number of accounts. So that was one step. The next step was associating that email, the Gmail account, the Gmail that I created, with a Facebook account, which was a chore at first. I remember trying to do it from a web browser on a computer, and it would always fail. But when I did it from a cell phone, then it worked. But I made it
Huh.
a point of using a cell phone that wasn't connected to any network, and it wasn't the cell phone that I'm going to use anymore. So I have I have an old cell phone, an old Android phone that is hooked up to that Gmail account and is hooked up to that Oculus account, and that is the phone I'm using to manage the Oculus account. Um,
Hmm.
it is cumbersome. If you want to disconnect your identity from Google and Facebook, it is hard. So it's not only about, okay, I needed to create this separate account completely, right? They still will track whatever you do, and hook it up to your identity in some way. They'll figure it out in the end. They'll find a connecting point that you have no control over, like an IMEI or a phone number that you can't change, because you must go through an authentication process at least once. And of course, everything I pay for on that Oculus account is on a privacy.com account.
Perfect.
So, yeah. So, but that wasn't easy to set up. And again, I'm not a privacy fanatic, but I am privacy conscious, and I do all of these as an exercise to see whether I can, mostly, right? I mean, I've never really cared. I still have a Google account. I still have a Facebook account. I haven't deleted them. I still use them at some capacity. I'm not really concerned whether I have like sensitive data that will come and bite me in the ass in the future. Uh, but the exercise of trying to create a separate entity isn't easy. It's not trivial.
Do you see what Eleanor's saying in the chat?
Uh, only single screen here, so for groups who don't
On
need
the
that level of
YouTube
interaction.
videos down, by the way.
What?
Again?
No, that's
Refresh the page.
Oh,
Groups who don't need
you're
that
kidding
level of interaction.
again?
If you
Hold it.
refresh, the default video player doesn't load, so nobody can see the stream unless they click somewhere else.
I don't know what the OWL system is, but so that all of that was an introduction,
No, it's working,
right?
Nick.
To we
me.
need to use Oculus, right, Eleanor? But the system itself is a system by another company. I think this one is called Engage VR, and you create a separate account for that. You need to log into that account from within your Oculus account, from your Oculus VR system. But you can also use a desktop or another VR system. As for VR systems, there are a few. There's the one by Steam. There's Vive. I think it's
HTC,
called,
right?
yeah. And there's HTC. There's a few. I mean, PlayStation, they have a system, but I don't think I don't know if Engage has an
Well,
application for
not
that.
only does PlayStation have a system, they're coming out with their version 2. They announced that at E3 a couple of weeks ago. So they're because their unit was they were one of the first kind of big mainstream units to come to the market was the PlayStation VR.
Yeah.
And then it kind of dropped. Then they didn't really do anything with it for quite some time. Maybe they were letting the market kind of figure out what it was looking for, and now they're coming out with their new version. So that'll be neat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you look at how Sony, how they deal with their platform is, I think it's a lot more enigmatic than, let's say, Nintendo, which they always come up with something completely new at the end.
Yeah.
With Sony is somehow when they come up with something new is like, oh, you remember that last thing we did? So here's one that is very, very, very similar. We just, put it one notch up
Well,
forward.
remember when they had their TV, their PlayStation or Sony View? What the hell are they? Sony's a weird company, man.
Yeah.
They do some very odd things.
It's like they do not really. It's unclear what market they are watching to try and understand the market, and then that's where
that's
they
an important
fail.
thing. And that's an important thing to know because Sony's got their hands in so many different baskets. They not only do they make televisions, they make, well, at least for a period. I don't know if their computer line is still popular, but the Sony Vaio was those all-in-ones in the mid 2010s, early 2010s were relatively popular.
Right. And then
radios,
they disappear, right?
Yeah, it's
That's
very
the
odd.
thing. It's so, yeah, that's bizarre.
So here's the question, Gal. How much did your company spend to send these VR headsets to everybody?
I mean, if I go and buy a headset, it's around $250.
Okay.
Right.
But remember, Nick, they would
They used to fly us to a resort somewhere
right
every year. Not everyone in the company, but about half of the company. So
Yeah.
it's still cheap compared, right?
Cheaper.
Yeah, but I'm curious. What kind of?
And they're probably paying also subscriptions for that service, right? That Engage to allow us to meet throughout the year. That's probably something they're paying for. I mean, I know they pay for Zoom, so.
But that's my question is, so, they did this. And I guess my question would be, are they going, when they send everybody to a resort and spend that money to get everybody to a resort, it's more of a morale booster than anything else. It's an appreciation. Obviously there is some business that goes on, but it's very much a morale booster and things of that nature that goes on. Company is not profiting necessarily off of that.
Not directly, right?
No.
But yeah.
But so that's my question with this. It's still an expensive thing to do, to buy a $200+ headset for everybody and ship it to them and everything of that nature. What do you think the long-term impact and goal of this is, because this wasn't for just a one-time event. What do
That
you
is
think?
that is correct. So
Yeah,
that's what I'm waiting to see as well.
yeah,
I know that for me, right, specifically in my task, it'll be very minimal in effect. But there are groups that working in VR makes some sense. I'll give you an example. I do see engineering meeting happening in VR if I was a part of it, especially in the design process, because you can literally, right, two people can stand in front of a virtual
Whiteboard.
a whiteboard, right, and draw there and interact, and it works surprisingly effective. We tried it online, and it's astounding. And not only that, you can draw in 3D, so you can create very elaborate plans, right? And layered things, and you can do that together, and it's going to be effective. So user interface design for sure, data flow design for sure. So as long as you're talking about design processes, I see that happening a lot. I work with customers, so that is going to be less of a
Yeah.
less of an impact, right? Because first of all, my customers, they won't have that. Second of all, I need to work with the terminal window most of the time, or some details on a SQL database, or so. While working in VR is possible, and I tried it, there's some virtual applications that allow you to work with your Windows machine, for example, and some of them are absolutely astounding, and they do bring a lot. There's a lot of potential, but the main problem is the headsets. They don't have a comfortable resolution yet to allow you to work on small text that is theoretically 3 feet away from you, right? Which would be the similar setup for a very large screen. So we're getting there, but we're not there yet. And so I don't see myself, let's say, working inside that environment, not for any meaningful period of time. But I do want to see whether, let's say, a monthly meeting or a weekly meeting that I have with colleagues, if for any reason they choose to do it in VR, is what additional aspects we can add to it. So other than just the fact that we're all sitting in a virtual around a virtual meeting room table, right? Is there going to be uh, any more any is there going to be any aspect like a 3D holographic uh, 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 realization of data that can be done in such a space, something you cannot do effectively in a real boardroom meeting, right? If the usage of these will grow, then I think then it will pass the gimmick point, and it will help in communicating better, especially when we're not supposed to sit next to each other physically, right? So this particular time, this particular pandemic, if anybody wants to go to a conspiracy theory land, right? This is the best time in the world for VR to flourish.
No.
I mean,
And
if you want to blame Facebook for anything, let's blame them for COVID. It
and
does make a
and
lot more sense than anything else.
and to take it a little bit farther, as far as the morale boosting and stuff of the meeting, I think, okay, so you go to a resort and okay, it was a nice vacation and all that. Here, you got something tangible in your hand, and the kids can play with it. You can play with it. It's not like you only have to use it for work, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I
So
that's
it
what
is.
I brought it here for my trip to show
Yeah.
to the family, to allow the kids, they're all
Yeah.
teenagers here, to play with it,
So
right? Because it's fun.
so
It
if
is an experience that, I mean, we remember
yeah,
we
that's
played
what
with
I'm
it. It's yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say is you have something in your hands, and in many families, most employees did not have one. You know, we always
that's
hear
true.
about it, we
Yeah,
hear about it, but we never do it. I mean, I don't have one. No big deal. But now that you have it, you're gonna go and explore and learn and enjoy it for a long time, hopefully. So I
yeah.
think it's good for morale.
And this
Yeah.
engage system that we work with to interact together, and that's where the meeting rooms are going to be, etc. It is um, it is well thought of. It is the environment that uh, first that you can create, right? Yeah, they help you create this environment that you're going to work within, but then the things that you can do within, right? As I said, these objects, these whiteboards, these it it allows you to interact within a space that you would otherwise have trouble interacting
Yep.
together, even if you are physically one next to the other. So there is an added value. If we would have all been sitting in an office and getting this and asked to be attending this while we're sitting in an office, like some drone in a Ready Player One movie,
All right.
um, that would have been off-putting. But
Yeah.
because we are forced to be isolated in a way, right? Because we are forced to be remote workers most of the time, these couple of years, uh, it makes total sense. And that will be, I think this is the year for testing this viability of the technology, because when we go forward, right, and remote working is no longer going to be the only reality or the main reality, but we're going to go back to the office space, um, then we wouldn't be able to test this
Mhm.
properly, right? And so this is this is the time to take a look at this technology and see where we can use it, even though we might be sitting in the same room. Maybe there is still reason to keep on using it because we can do something with it that we wouldn't do otherwise. And
Yeah.
even though, I mean, if we are three people in the same room, but there's a fourth and a fifth, there are, across the sea, right? Maybe this is the way to interact with them better than just the Zoom, where we see our faces and mostly look at ourselves, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, good. Nick, did you have any other comments, questions about VR to
No,
Gal?
sir.
Okay. So let's switch here. This is interesting. VPNs or virtual private networks continue to be used by millions of people as a way of masking their internet activity by encrypting their location and web traffic. But on the modern internet, most people can safely ditch them thanks to the widespread use of encryption that has made public internet connections far less of a security threat, cybersecurity experts say. Most commercial VPNs are snake oil from a security standpoint, said Nicholas Weaver, a cybersecurity lecturer at the University of California at Berkeley. They don't improve your security at all. Most browsers have quietly implemented an added layer of security in recent years that automatically encrypts internet traffic at most sites with a technology called HTTPS, indicated by a tiny padlock by the URL. The presence of HTTPS means that worrisome scenario in which a scammer or hacker squats on the public Wi-Fi connection in order to watch people's internet habits isn't feasible. It's not clear that the threat of a hacker at your coffee shop was ever that real to begin with. but it is certainly not a major danger now. Remember, he says, someone attacking you at the coffee shop needs to be basically at the coffee shop. I don't know of them ever being used outside of pranks. And those are all irrelevant now, with most sites using HTTPS. That's what he says. What do you
Well,
guys think about that?
can I call bullshit?
Okay.
Nick, do you agree?
I don't. I agree with. Yeah, mostly I call bullshit. I mean, some of the points he's making are there's some legitimacy to, but
But they're not the
no,
main
not really.
points.
No, not the main points at all.
Exactly. So he started by saying something, right? He started by saying VPN services are used
Snake oil.
for. Well, no, that's the second thing he said.
Oh.
But first, he explained what they are used for: masquerading location and
Oh, yeah,
encryption.
masking their internet activity by
Right.
encrypting their location and web traffic. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, and then he says snake oil because he says the main reason you're doing that is to protect yourself from sniffing, right? From sniffing attacks, sniffing based attacks.
From people.
Which
Yeah,
is
from people.
correct.
Yeah.
But then he goes to assume that is from anybody who's physically located next to you. And that's the bullshit part. VPNs are not snake oil because of them, because nobody's buying a connection to a VPN to that. A company will set up their own VPN so you could connect securely and nobody will listen on, and mostly not at the coffee shop, but at the entry point for traffic going into the company. Okay,
to the local network. Yeah,
that's a corporate VPN.
Yeah,
and that right is no snake oil because the entry point for the corporate VPN is known, is static, is always there, and you'll need that. The public VPNs, those that you can lease and buy, and you buy them privately, you are trying to hide from the one component that you have zero control of, and they can completely monitor you, and that's your ISP and any service that you are connecting to. And you want to masquerade your location. You want to make sure that a government that is that your ISP is working within, right, will sniff that. And for some reason, right, he mentions zero of that.
Yeah.
And that seems to me, let's see who paid him to write the article.
Yeah, and the problem is a lot of people will listen to this and say, okay, well, I don't need it, and could get screwed up. Yeah.
I mean, I believe most of our listeners are from the States or maybe Canada, but I mean, if you are, and I'm pretty sure that this is become common all over the world, but if you use a torrent client these days, right, and you download something from a questionable a site with questionable reputation, you will get penalized by your ISP because they are because by government rules, right, they must do whatever they need to do to prevent copyright infringement or stuff like that. Sometimes all you want to do is you want to poke at the internet in its darkest alleys, and you don't want to be monitored, right? It doesn't matter if you're doing it as a career criminal or just as a curious person, right? And privacy is a key, and the privacy you want isn't from Joe Schmo sitting in the coffee shop trying to prank someone. The privacy is from everybody, right? Including government entities.
Anybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay,
from
good.
a Facebook, from a Google, from an ISP, from the U.S. government, from
Anybody.
the Brazilian government from anyone, right? It doesn't matter.
Okay. Here's something. Oh, wait, look who's with us.
Hello. I
Good.
hadn't used my computer for so long, I couldn't figure out how to use it. So I had to retrain myself.
That's okay. How you doing?
Okay. It took me a while to get my head cleared to the point where I could think and breathe. But
Yeah.
otherwise, okay.
You got to stop with those chemicals, man. You got to stop with those chemicals.
Yeah.
Stop sniffing them. Yeah.
Mm.
All right. So listen to this now. And Gal, this is, I would be looking for popcorn. Remember popcorn?
Yeah.
Popcorn Time. The once popular app that made watching pirated movies and television shows almost as easy as using Netflix has shut down. The app,
For the 20th time. Come on.
I don't know. The
That's
app
news?
debuted in 2014 and within a year became one of the most popular services for accessing illegal video content. Popcorn Time's creator deserted the service shortly after its introduction, and emails released after a hack of Sony Group indicated law enforcement may have played a role. But the app's code was open source, and
Right.
other developers jumped in to release new versions. In 2015, a developer associated with Popcorn Time told Bloomberg that the service wasn't responsible for piracy because it didn't host any stolen material itself. The software
They
instead,
were just the middleman.
yeah, the software instead offered a link to computers around the world hosting the content through the file sharing system BitTorrent. The torrent world was here with millions of users way before us and will be here with billions of users way after us. So for some reason, I mean, he said that back in 2015. I mean, this is 6-7 years later.
Right.
And they said that it shut down. Whatever that release was, whoever released it, it is shut down now.
Yeah, it usually means, so as they said, they were using the BitTorrent protocol.
Yeah.
Right. And that means there's no central location for the files, but there
Right.
is a known entry point. Right. There
Yeah.
needs to be a tracker that it first connects, and through that, actually, it's usually a set of trackers. So probably what happens is, finally, those trackers that the software was relying on, they all went bust, and that can happen. Yeah.
Yep.
And my guess is somebody will pick up the code, will update the trackers, and suddenly something else will start working. It's
It's interesting.
remember, it actually ties into the previous
Yeah.
article. You wouldn't want to use Popcorn Time without a VPN, right? Because then wherever you're exiting and connecting to that, very fast it will hook up to a source that is monitored by an ISP, right? And once the ISP identifies an IP of their own leaching from those sources, then it just blocks them.
Yeah.
So it just shows that if you wanna, this is actually important. So if you are knowingly, you wanna infringe on copyright, right? I have zero judgment of you, but do understand that you're gonna need to work at it, right? It's not gonna be easy because there's money involved, and people on the side of the money, they're gonna do everything possible to either stop those services, block them, figure out a way of identifying, right? It's going to be a battle, an uphill battle, and understand that you have no way of controlling that, and that'll keep on happening. So systems like that, like PopcornTime, they are always, and always, and always, and always, they're always temporary. And even the temporary ones, right? They'll rise again and again and again and again. They'll try and they'll try, but
Yeah.
it's it's gonna keep on happening. I'm just
Well,
surprised that it's still news. I mean that
Yeah, I know. I
service
mean,
has
it's
shut down so many times.
maybe they ran out of stories.
Good.
You know what? It's the digital equivalent of the Wild West, right?
Yes.
You go where's the best place in town to get illegal liquor? Two doors
Yes.
down on the left. Okay. So then the next day when you come in, where's the best place to get illegal liquor? Where's 3 doors down up on the second floor? So it just
Exactly.
yeah, it moves. It's
Yeah. 1920s prohibition.
that's it.
Yeah. Who do you need to
Joe sent
know?
me.
Yeah.
Joe
Exactly.
sent me. How do they? Is this stuff treated differently? If you're streaming, watching something, is there a difference between the way they look at you and if you download?
ISPs? No, I think not. The
No,
moment
there can't
you
be.
are not in BitTorrent, because in BitTorrent you are automatically downloading
Yeah.
and uploading. So the moment you are uploading, that's when you get the infringement notice.
yeah, that's true. Interesting. Never thought about that. That's
I
right.
would share this with you, but Pam just made a batch of air fryer donuts. They're not really donuts. They're like strips, but oh my God. Like my taste buds, still can't smell anything, but my mouth, I can taste stuff, and I couldn't taste sweet for several days. And now I can taste sweet again.
Uh-oh.
It's like magical.
Yeah, I'd rather lose my taste. So you're not feeling
It's
like, oh,
weird
I
because
want that.
I'll go, Pam said, try this. And I tried like a really strong cinnamon and I'm smelling it. And I don't know what this is, because like I can tell I'm smelling something, but I can't identify it. It's weird.
Oh, but it's good. It's good to see you.
Oh, it's just been an adventure, short adventure.
All right, so Spence, and I'm assuming that you did not do specials, right?
No, I did not.
Okay. So listen to this here, talking about hits. Dawn Ostroff wants to find more hits. The chief content officer of Spotify is upset that her company isn't producing enough new popular podcasts and has been putting pressure on her in-house studios to deliver. I've now heard the same message from every corner of the Spotify universe, though no one wanted to talk about it on the record. It's hard for new shows to find an audience. Every new show has a smaller audience than its predecessors. This is not specific to Spotify. Executives at studios large and small echoed the sentiment. While the overall audience for podcasting expands, the audience for individual new shows is shrinking across the board. None of the 10 most popular podcasts in the US last year debuted in the last couple years, according to Edison Research. There are an average of more than 7 years old, and 3 of the top 5 are more than a decade old. This trend vexes executives and producers across the podcasting industry who worry they are wasting a lot of money on new shows. Spotify, Amazon, Sirius, iHeartMedia, and outside investors have plowed billions of dollars into production companies. Spotify has spent more than anyone paying about $500 million for 3 studios. Where is all this money going if these companies aren't producing new hits?
Well,
yeah.
who wrote this article?
This comes from Slashdot. I think it's from The Verge.
Okay, well that makes a lot of sense.
Indeed.
This article seems to, just in general, the concept and the notion of podcasting doesn't seem to meet what this article is talking about. Now, obviously, there are podcasts that have wide and broad appeal. For example, this show's got a relatively wide appeal. But one of the things that makes podcasting is the fact that you can do a podcast about, for example, survival video games, and have it be a very small niche group of people that listen. So of course that's not going to pull the audience. That's what separates podcasting from traditional media. Is there's no appetite for that on cable or on satellite, but there is on podcasting. So I don't understand what the problem is.
Well,
this is the whole point.
But remember who they're quoting.
Yeah,
they're quoting Spotify, who are pouring billions on podcasting that nobody asked for.
And and that's the key thing to note, is that podcasting has never been, people have tried to make, the old phrase is trying to monetize the network with podcasting for decades. Literally the last 20 years, people have tried to do this, and it's failed time and time and time and time again.
Except for those few that were really successful, right?
It depends on how you measure success.
Yeah.
So Spotify is measuring it in dollars.
But I mean,
that's true.
I was out looking. The other day I was looking for something new in a podcast, and I had heard about something, and I went and I found this individual person who has a historical rethinking history, I think it's called, or something like that. And he was part of this gigantic corporate podcast entity that I was like, wait a minute, why is it? I looked at this podcast, and then it's under this global name. I said, I never heard of these people before. They're huge. They're exactly that. They are a publishing house for podcasts that somehow they get a piece of the action for everything that they put their name.
But it doesn't work. It's not long-term sustainable, because the way that you make money online advertising is by mass numbers. And a reason that people make money the way that they do on platforms like YouTube is because they get hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views per video. Podcasting, just based on what podcasting is, it's never going to reach that audience. If you have a podcast and it gets 100 downloads and it's really, really niche and really, really a real small segment of something, that's a good number to have. If you're talking about a very small segment of something, that's a good number to have.
Unless you're
based on the audience side.
Unless you're on YouTube and the name of your podcast is "Who Are the Sea Peoples?" Have you looked at this? This was one that
I've never heard.
Very popular podcast about history, and somehow, for some reason, he became the most popular podcast on YouTube. Actually, the most searched, and so he's still like, I don't know how this happened. I don't know why it happened. It's his stuff is pretty good. But the point was that he wound up, for some reason, people decided they're going to campaign and make this guy the top one. And he was. And now there's the joke out there is like, if you don't know about Who Are the Sea Peoples, then you haven't arrived yet. It's like that kind of a thing.
It's just, it's this whole notion that podcasts are supposed to be this broad reach and cast this broad net just kind of defeats the entire purpose of it. At least in my opinion. I could be
wrong. I'm under the impression or the thinking that podcasts with a big audience did not get the big audience because they were monetizing, or they were there before the monetizing even came into mind. If you're having fun with your podcasts like we do, then the audience will grow or maintain or whatever. But if you start looking for to monetize, which is by, sponsors, things like that, you sort of need to cater to these people. I was reading something this morning that Steve Harvey, stand-up comedian, said that he is not going to do stand-up anymore.
Correct.
Because the jokes today, any joke will cause somebody, will hurt somebody, or it's just not, it's not healthy. He said that political correctness killed comedy. So here you are. He said there's only one person, I mean, from what I read, he said only Chappelle,
Dave Chappelle.
can do this because he doesn't have sponsors. But everybody else has sponsors, and you cannot do certain things at that point. Forget that.
So it'll go underground.
What?
It's already gone. It already has gone underground.
Well,
So,
But see, and
But it
that's
won't-
the whole point of that's what podcasting was originally intended to be in the first place, was supposed to be underground.
until corporatism took over. Yeah.
I mean,
Until somebody saw the dollar bills.
exactly. That's the thing.
One of these actually, right? One of these podcasts, they were actually really successful. And suddenly somebody said, hey, if that's successful, maybe we can create another one. And there were probably a bunch of them. And there was this golden era of entrepreneurship because it was still not money coming from the outside. It was still industry people trying to innovate on a form, right? People who came from public radio and stuff like that, and they said, okay, we have our skills, our set of skills, and we have this, and there's this unique thing happening right now, and they went into it. And then corporate money came into it, right? Because these were basically startups. But let's be honest, this is still an evolution of radio.
It is.
So, and it is completely different, right, than a visual medium. It is still competing with visual mediums. I mean, it doesn't matter how much you put an effort into a podcast. People will prefer TikTok, right? They will prefer TikTok. There won't be anything you can compete against it, and it's all competing on on the same time slice. So yeah, the whole idea of pouring millions into podcast, because if you look at what podcasts are today, those that Spotify pushes into your stream, one of the reasons I left Spotify, by the way, is it's content that you would maybe hear on the TV. It's content that is already been created in another space, and it's just pushed into that podcast area. That would probably be a lot more successful in the way Spotify measures it, because they didn't need to invest any money in producing that. It just needed to cut the audio into a listenable segment and patch a few ads in between, and that's it. So yeah,
Yeah.
that article is mostly, I'm hearing, corporate America of boohoo, or in this case Spotify, which is not
One
really
person.
America.
No, it's one
Yeah,
person. It's the content.
crying boohoo, I made the wrong investment, and I might be paying with my job for it in the future.
Yeah.
It's okay because you'll have 20 jobs. It's just another one on your list.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember when they said that? It was probably 10 years ago. We started talking about that. They said nobody will stay in the same career anymore, which is true, basically. But you'll average person who was started into the job market 15 years ago will have 10 careers. But
Yeah.
oh well.
Yeah.
So the podcast that I was talking about was called Revisionist History, and it's I can't remember what the name of it. Malcolm Caldwell, his name is, but he is under something, and I was like, Pushkin Industries. What is Pushkin Industries? So I went and looked, and it's like this gigantic catalog of podcasts.
Well,
Everything says Pushkin all over it. So,
Yeah, these these measures have tried and tried and tried again, and every single time they just don't work.
There are a few work. I mean, you look at
not because they were
what's his
planned,
name?
not because it happened that they worked.
No,
It's,
those who are successful, they come from genuine passion.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
you cannot fake genuine passion.
Nope.
No, I mean, you look at Joe Rogan. I mean, he's the largest podcast in the world, and he doesn't do it because he needs some big, he's trying
he's
to do some-
enjoying it.
He started his show back in 2012 or whatever, just bullshitting with his friends and other comedians. I mean, that was the precipice of it.
Right.
Yep. All right.
Oh, and if you want to watch a good,
Most-
if you haven't watched it yet, just a good poking fun at podcast, watch the series called "Only Murders in Our Building." It's Steve Martin.
Yeah, Steve Martin. Yeah.
Oh, it does a great.
Yeah,
it's
it's
very
good?
funny. Does a great job of making fun of podcasts, and skewering a whole bunch of other stuff too. It's fun.
Okay, so most of us and most of the audience, I mean, have PayPal account. I mean, we use
We still
PayPal
have?
account. 3 PayPal users who've allegedly had their accounts frozen and funds taken by the company without explanation have filed a federal lawsuit against the online payment service. The plaintiffs are accusing the company of unlawfully seizing their personal property and violating racketeering laws. They're now proposing a class action suit on behalf of all other users who've had their accounts frozen before and are seeking restitution, as well as punitive and exemplary damages. Lena Evans, one of the plaintiffs who had been a PayPal user for 22 years, said the website seized $26,984 from her account 6 months after it got frozen without ever telling her why. I don't understand who keeps that much money in their PayPal account.
Yeah, I mean, an idiot.
Yeah. Evans had been using PayPal to buy and sell clothing on eBay, to exchange money for a poker league she owns, and for a nonprofit that helps women with various needs. Fellow plaintiff Ronnie Shemtov said PayPal seized over $42,000 of her money and never got an acceptable reason for why her account was terminated. She received several different explanations when she contacted the company. One customer rep said it was because she used the same IP and computer as other PayPal users, while another said it was because she sold yoga clothing at 20 to 30% lower than retail. Yet another representative allegedly said it was because she used multiple accounts, which she denies. Now, from the early days of PayPal, I remember people were saying that if something is wrong with what you're doing on PayPal, right away they freeze your money, and you
Yes.
can't put your hand on it. And I understand that this is to protect the buyer, because if you sold something, a fake or anything that is illegal, and somebody paid you a bunch of money and now they want a refund, you may not give it back to them. So PayPal decided, okay, we're going to freeze it until we hear what's going on. But this, to take the money, I don't know about that. There must be more to it than what the story here is telling us. But to seize 26,000 here, 42,000 there, I mean, that's I don't think that's legal.
Well,
Maybe-
it doesn't sound like that, and that's why they're suing. But
Yeah.
again, the news article is just too muddled with I mean, non-details.
Right.
So we are just guessing. Yeah.
Right. We hear one
That's
side.
journalism.
Yeah.
That's journalism. Just
That's
get-
bad journalism.
Yeah,
and
well,
we shouldn't give it. I'm not.
that's-
Next time, don't mention it.
There is Nick. Who here used Chromebook?
Who here is
I
a
know-
journalist?
I know-
I am.
I know Nick used
No.
Chromebook.
Yeah. No, I used a Chromebook for a period
Yeah.
of time. My father used one for many, many, many years.
So a Scandinavian hotel chain that fell victim to a ransomware attack last month said it took a novel approach to recover from the incident by switching all affected systems to ChromeOS. The record reports. This is coming from the record in Europe. Nordic Choice Hotel, which operates 200 hotels across Northern Europe, fell victim to a ransomware attack on December 2nd when hackers encrypted some of the internal system using the Conti ransomware strain. The attack prevented staff from accessing guest reservations data and from issuing key cards to newly arriving guests, as one of the
That's
hotel guests
annoying.
told the record in an interview. But in a press release last week, Nordic Choice said that instead of contacting the hackers and negotiating a ransom for the decryption key that would have unlocked the affected devices, the hotel chose to migrate its entire PC fleet from Windows to ChromeOS. In less than 24 hours, the first hotel was operating in the ChromeOS ecosystem from Google. And in the following 2 days, 2,000 computers were converted all over the company, consisting of 212 hotels in 5 different countries. Kari Anna Fiskvik, VP Technology at Nordic Choice Hotel, said the hotel had already run a pilot program to test the tool before the attack as a way to save money by reusing old computers with less demanding OS. So when we suddenly had to deal with a cyber attack, the decision to go all in and fast track the project was made in seconds. Nordic Choice said it plans to migrate another 2,000 computers to ChromeOS on top of the 2,000 it migrated during the attack. The hotel chain says they expect to save $6.7 million by converting old computers to ChromeOS instead of buying new hardware. Amazing.
I like the story.
Yes, it's a good, feel-good story. But apparently,
There's something that I'm not completely clear,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they said it took them 24 hours to convert
for
these.
the first one to be in production.
Okay. So their system seems to have already been web-based, mostly. Otherwise, how can you do that,
Well,
right? But I still like it's
the
a great
the
story,
thing
right?
the thing that when I read it first sounded like, okay, so but how did they recover the data?
I mean, you recover from a backup.
Yeah, but they may have not even needed to recover much because they already were in the process of doing this and they had a trial run, so
Exactly.
all the data was in it already.
Exactly, and that's the thing. It's like they were already in the process of migration to something else. I upgrade their Windows OS, okay, or
Right.
something. So data-wise, they were secure, and that's great. Switching an OS is a good defensive. I don't know how long it will hold, right? I mean,
Oh.
the moment attackers will see a prevailing distribution or OS that holds a lot of data, right? They'll start attacking that specifically. I'm not saying I know it's possible or not possible with Chrome OS. That has nothing to do with it. But switching to a different OS, it's a novel concept. But
Yeah.
it seems to me that they were already in the process of doing
Yeah,
that.
they
Anyway.
were
It just pushed them to do it faster and more efficiently than ever.
Yeah. And
It
you know,
still
you
costs
were
them. I mean,
and you were talking about uh restoring from a backup.
yeah.
That's always a good thing to have backups, but I
I mean,
always
that's the number one
yeah,
strategy, but you don't always have a system that can restore quickly enough on a widespread
I I
environment.
I'm not
So
even going in this direction. I'm going in a different direction. What if I always think about this? What if an an attacker, a hacker, got into the system and put something for a backdoor, or left it alone? Now you go on day after day and you back up and you back up and you back up. And most people, they don't have backup that will go back months. They do a backup and maybe, 2, 3, 4 weeks. You know, that hacker, once they recover, let's say after 6 months, the hacker goes in and said, okay, now let's attack. We have access. So he goes in and wreaks havoc on the system. And the IT department say, oh, yeah, we'll just restore. Now you're restoring, and you're restoring the malware also, because you never knew that it was there. It wasn't doing anything.
yeah, it's not. It's. I mean, it's not that your story doesn't have any footing in reality.
Mhm.
It's just these
Doesn't happen.
days, after an attack happens, there's a complete forensic investigation,
Right.
right? So even if you will restore with the malware there, right, you will pinpoint where it resides, and you will have a plan of how to deal with it. The thing is,
Okay.
when you're talking about, I mean, any cyber attack these days is extremely complex, right? Because of the amount of security already put in place. I mean, even reaching hacking a home today, right, is extremely complex,
Hmm.
because just the default stuff that you get from your ISP is not really easy to bypass unless what password is being used.
Right.
The defaults today are a lot more secure than they used to be. So the perimeter is pretty much solid. The way you go in today is still some form of social engineering, and you're going through the people who are the most vulnerable. So you try to fish your way, right? Find a little fish inside, get in, and start, surveilling the perimeter and figuring out what else, where can you open another opening for you, and where, right, you're establishing your presence there.
Mm.
All of that is detectable in a way, depending on security measures put in place. So it's tricky. It's not easy. Uh, So forensic wise, there's always trace. Uh, and a good hacker, what they try to do is they try to clear out all of their footsteps and all that. But there's never perfect, not in the hacking side and not in the protection side. Um, so it's not as simple as that. It might work on a small system, uh, on a single office with a single server, maybe. But when you're talking about a chain of hotels, right? Like the story,
Hmm.
that's a lot more complex, and that will never fly. So
Oh,
yeah,
all right. And here is a funny story. I'm going to make it real short and just tell you. You know how you're trying to get a cartridge, ink cartridge, or toner cartridge for your
yeah,
printer, and
yeah,
they have you can't reuse them because they have chips on them.
Right.
So that's how the companies were making more money, and then people figured out how to unplug the chip and put it in a new one, and it keeps working and all that. Canon now is falling to the same trap as many other companies, chip shortage. So they don't have. So what do? Now they tell people how to bypass the chip.
Bypass the chips. This is priceless. Oh, that's so beautiful.
So if you want to read about it, just read about Canon and chips.
Problem is, they ask you to register so you can bypass the chip, and then when the shortage is gone, they're going to prosecute.
Well, it says
They're just
the
looking to collect all the people who are doing this, and then they'll get rid of them.
But then you're gonna hit them with the privacy suit because they preserved your personal information.
Now they worked out a deal with the feds to make sure that they were immune for prosecution for 100 years.
Oh, this is priceless. This is beautiful.
this
is karma.
It is. You're right.
Oh man.
You have to tell people that, okay, here. They do say that the software on these printers comes with a relatively simple way to defeat the chip checks, depending on the model. When an error message occurs after inserting toner, users can press either I agree, close, or OK. When user press that button, the world does not end. Rather, Canon says users may find that their toner cartridge doesn't give them a low toner before running empty and blah, 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 blah. But
Think about it.
yeah.
Somebody in their HR or in their public relations department said, what can we do to make people think we're really being gracious when it really doesn't mean anything?
Yeah.
We can do this. It's brilliant. We can tell everybody we're giving this away when everybody hacked it anyway. So it doesn't matter.
It's very interesting. Yeah. There's something here about some
About
oh shoot, where is it? Did I lose it? Oh well. Oh my god. Shush. Oh, there it is.
Oh,
NVIDIA.
sorry, go ahead.
NVIDIA latest game ready driver include a tool that could let you improve the image quality of games that your graphics card can easily run alongside optimizations for the new God of War PC port. The technology is called Deep Learning Dynamic Super Resolution, DLDSR.
so they're basically starting Skynet now.
Then I lost my place.
Sorry.
Oh, NVIDIA says you can use it to make most games look sharper by running them at a higher resolution than your monitor natively supports. DLDSR builds on NVIDIA dynamic super resolution technology, which has been around for years. Essentially, regular old DSR renders a game at a higher res than your monitor can handle, and then downscales it to the monitor native resolution. So if you have a monitor that cannot display it at real high, you can use that. But of course, you have to have an NVIDIA card. This leads to an image with better sharpness, but usually comes with a dip in performance. You're asking your GPU to do more work after all. So for instance, if you had a graphics card capable of running games at 4K, but only had a 1440p monitor, you could use DSR to get it a boost in clarity. That's
Tell me, Nick,
What's
is
up?
this deep processing, is that part of the deep state? Is Alex Jones involved?
Oh, I'm sure Alex Jones is absolutely involved. Well, no, he's not involved, but he is involved in calling it out and bringing to the light the important information that the people need. So, I mean, if you're talking about that, sure. I mean, yeah, I'm just.
But
mean,
but
like,
it does sound. I
Guy,
mean,
you know what? It's not my fault that I'm sitting here spitting facts, and Alex Jones is spitting facts, and you just can't handle it. So, I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Does Alex Jones have his own brand of vitamins?
Oh yes, he absolutely does. I
Yeah,
take them.
sure.
Infowarsstore.com.
Hmm.
I take Brain Force.
all
You
right.
think I'm bullshitting you? I'm not. Hey, I am not.
Go ahead.
I have something. I have something
Yes.
real quick.
Absolutely.
So remember our conversation yesterday, last weekend? I was having some issues with my HVAC.
Yeah.
With my unit not turning on, my outdoor air handler.
Yeah.
So it turned out to be the starting capacitor.
Right.
And this guy was very much bad, as you can see by the bulging nature of the caps, the cracked tin on the edge.
You can't say that anything is bad anymore. Sorry. It's just not optimal.
So you can
challenged.
see the bulge. You could see the bulge there.
Yep.
So
That's unfair. to say
a
call it
quick
bad.
$23 fix and back up and running.
That's all he charged you was $23?
Oh, he did.
I did it myself.
Oh, you did. Good.
Yeah.
You should have a spare one. That and a contractor.
So okay. So this is an interesting question. This is so I was thinking about Amnon last night when I was going to bed.
Oh,
Which it's got its own problems because Amnon is always one of having a spare. Okay, Amnon, enough. I know it's 2022, but it still doesn't matter. I thought, because Spence, that was my first impression is, well, like, just get a spare and have it on hand. But as I thought about it, do I need a spare?
yes.
And let me explain. Let me explain. I can buy these capacitors locally at Ace Hardware's or any of the electrical supply stores and anything whenever I need them. Now, obviously, you could,
Unless there's a pandemic.
well, unless there's a situation where 30 by 5 microfarad starting capacitors are out. Now that could be the case, but these are standard parts. So at what point do you really, and this goes across everything, at what point do you really need spares?
You don't.
I don't think I'm going to go out. I was thinking, I'm going to go out and buy one of these, but I know what's going to happen. The starting capacitor in my air conditioner doesn't go bad very often. I'm going to buy it, put it somewhere, not be able to find it if and when I actually need it, and have to buy another one.
I'll tell you from experience, the first time I replaced a capacitor and a contactor on an older unit, within a year it went bad again because the parts are crap.
So I'm not arguing that with you, but if I can go and the Ace Hardware is 5 minutes from my house, is it worth stocking and holding on to a spare part? Or is it just one of those situations where you buy it and get it when you need it?
I think that's one of the things. I wouldn't buy an extra part for my stove necessarily because I can get by without that, but you need heat.
True.
You do. Like I've had it happen in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
something went wrong.
That was my point.
Bam. So I get up that morning and I don't have spares anymore because I have new systems that I haven't actually gone down there and looked at the parts yet to do that.
But here's the thing. I don't necessarily need the spare. You mentioned heat in the middle of the night. Well, if the outdoor unit goes bad in the middle of the night, the aux heat's going to run anyway. Plus, I'm not doing a repair in the middle of the night anyway. And if it's during the summer and it's hot, okay, well, you're a little uncomfortable while you wait for the part for the air conditioning. So I wonder, is it worth buying a spare part for something when it's readily available? And I don't think it is.
Okay, Nick.
Really
when you're married,
on your
Nick, when you're married and you have kids and your wife is beating you in the head because there's no heat, yes, you'll want to have a spare.
That very well may be the case. I think about it and I don't know. I was thinking about it last night about, do I need to go out and get a spare? Should I go on Amazon and order a spare capacitor? Or I bought this capacitor last Sunday at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Damn. And that's a dual capacitor, right? That's not.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
They sell them at Ace Hardware. And if it was during the week, like Monday through Friday, I could have went to the various electrical supply and HVAC stores where the techs buy their stuff and purchase them there.
You know, I went to Ferguson to do that. Ferguson's
That's
a
where I
big
would have bought
supplier.
it at Ferguson.
They refused to sell to me because I wasn't in the trades.
Well,
said, "Where's
how
your
long?
license?"
How long ago was that?
2 years ago.
Okay, I bought stuff from Ferguson recently. They've
Yeah,
always sold
this particular place. I needed a contactor and a capacitor. They wouldn't sell it.
Mhm.
So I went to another local, like mom and pop place. They, what do you want? How many do you want?
Yeah. So I don't know. What is Gal? What are your thoughts?
Really, so I think I'm like you uh, on this stuff. Most of the stuff I do not stock. I do have, for example, a spare hard drive, which is exactly the same model as the one that I have in a server. Because if that fails, I do not want even to wait the 3 days of shipping and all that to start the resilvering process and get a backup. Because when one fails, I don't want to get to the point where a second fails and then I'm crap out of luck, right?
And I bet you have a spare power supply now too.
No, unfortunately, no. But I do have Amnon.
You do
so-
have Amnon. That's right. Amnon, you're the reason why we get away with all this stuff. 'cause you
Yeah,
have
I'm not.
everything.
I mean, even with the PSU, the only thing I lost, right, was in case Amnon didn't have one available, right? The only thing I would lose was probably a day or two, and this wasn't a very critical computer. If it would have happened to my server, for example, then what I would have done is I would have taken the PSU from my desktop, the one that broke down, right, and would have put it there and just made it work as soon as possible. So,
By the way,
capacitor like that, I am with you. I do not think that a standard. I mean, the only thing I have spares are probably batteries at this point, right? I'm trying to thin down on that because we do live in a very convenient culture. So,
yeah.
If there are things, for example, that you can't get, like as you mentioned, Gal, the same kind of hard drive, you're not going to be able to go out to Best Buy and probably get that same hard drive that you're looking
for a reasonable price or something like that. Yeah.
So that stuff I understand, but when a part is readily available. Now here's the thing. I spent about I think I spent $23 on that capacitor at Ace Hardware. They sell it on Amazon for $11. And you might say, okay, well, damn, that's half the price. Go and get it. But for the amount of time,
no,
you're not going to save anything by buying
to spend $12 now to put it in my house or leave it in my garage and have to push it around for the next 5+ years because the unit's brand new. And as you mentioned, Spence, it could just blow next year. And if that's the case, then I probably need to have somebody come look at the system and figure out why a capacitor is going out.
Okay, I have a solution for you. I have a solution.
But I'm just curious, like, what I don't know if it's readily available. Is it worth stocking?
Definitely. There is an application, a server, basically a web server that you run called Grocy, Grocy.
Okay.
And that is basically a CRM system for your home. And if you start cataloging all of the spare parts and where they are exactly, that's when it starts to make sense, right? Because you will know you have one in stock. You will know exactly where it is. You will know exactly when you bought it. But you'll need to also take care of the data entry.
So I'm looking at this. It's an ERP beyond your fridge.
Yeah.
Grocy is a web-based self-hosted grocery and household management. Can I run this on Home Assistant?
There's a plugin already in the store. You just download it and you run it.
Is it in Hacks?
Amazing. No, not Hacks. It's an add-on. It's a Docker add-on.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It is like 2 clicks of installation.
I have a very basic version of that. I have a bunch of color markers. And when I replace something, I write the date I replaced it and what the part number is.
You're talking about HVAC filters and that's what I do as well. Yeah.
Nick, I've got
yes, sir.
I've got. I developed that solution. I have parts for our central heat
Mhm.
air handler.
Yeah.
They are right next to the air handler inside the closet. Every part, like I have parts for the door of the refrigerator, the
They're in
hinges
the
and
door of
stuff.
the refrigerator.
Yeah, the hinges, somehow the hinges go
They're
bad
next
or
to the
whatever.
ketchup inside the fridge.
So it's in it's in a plastic bag and a magnet on the side of the refrigerator. Now with
Yeah.
that capacitor, what I would probably do is I would put it in a Ziploc bag inside another one, and put it right inside the air conditioner. So when you
Well,
open it
I'll-
to see if it's the capacitor, oh, there's the new one.
I can go put it in the attic next to the air handler.
Well, but that needs to be
What?
outside, remember.
No,
The
it doesn't.
capacitor goes on the outside. There is
Yeah,
no.
but I'm saying you could. Yeah, no. So I'm going to install this.
So, yeah,
this,
go
this grocery.
anywhere, but the way to not lose and find out where parts for a certain thing are, the best thing if you can do it is to put it right with that device.
Oh, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but I still think my question is still stands, and I'm not sure that I know
it's
what
11
what is worth stocking and what is not.
It's $11. It is, you probably won't feel it. And when something happens, it's nice to know that you can just go outside, do it, and within, now that you know how to do it, 10 minutes, you're back in business.
So
I
what
agree with
Amnon is
that.
saying, what Amnon is saying is very, very simple, Nick. Is saying it really depends on what you get your rush from.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
have
no,
You
a
get
spare-
your rush
it's
from
true.
having it next to there and fixing it in a second. On the off chance that it will go bad in the next 1 to 5 years,
Yeah.
then yes, go ahead.
I have a spare toilet seat and flapper taped to the wall in my bathroom.
You have a spare toilet seat taped to your wall.
Yeah, just in case it breaks, and an extra flapper.
So
You never know. You
because
never know
because
when
then
it's
my
gonna go bad.
because then my next thing goes into when does that become hoarding? Right? How many parts can you
Hey,
store?
don't use that word.
Well, no, but that's what it turns into when you start when you grab a spare part for every possible thing. Well, now you're hoarding something.
Yeah.
And
Now
I-
I'll tell you when it starts being hoarding. It's when you keep a spare Big Mac next to everything else and you keep it there.
It's hoarding when you keep a spare for something you no longer have.
Yeah.
So I have a
and
part
maybe
that
that's
goes
why
with my
maybe
19 Amnon has parts for his old oil-fired furnace, right, Amnon?
Not anymore, actually.
I
did. Yeah.
He did.
Yeah,
How
I
long?
did.
You've been like 4 years now without the oil
Yeah.
furnace?
Well, I'm not used to have a spare car, no.
he still has spare cars. No, but I think that's the thing is what is worth stocking, and as you get into that, how many parts, and for example, without, like what Gal just mentioned, without something to keep track of this, it's a good point. So you have these spare parts, you get a new system, you get a new whatever, you get a new HVAC system. Well, now you've got parts that you don't need.
Okay, Nick.
What do you do with them?
Nick, I'll give you an example that will
Sure.
be for you. You're in
Sure.
Wilmington.
Mhm.
You have a hurricane.
Yeah.
You cannot go out. There's a trees are down all over, but the power is still okay. And that's when your air conditioning dies.
Which could very well
And
happen
it's
if there's a
hot.
power surge.
And it's
Yeah.
hot.
Yeah.
Now you can't, the stores are going to be closed, everything. You can't even go out to go there. Now, oh yeah, but I do have it. Now, you're right. At that point, you say, okay, and what if I don't have the milk? And what if I don't have this? But there are certain things that you can store a spare for that doesn't cost
Yeah.
a lot of money. And even if it went bad, so it went bad if you kept it too long. But
Yeah.
that's one of the, or you snowed in.
As long as you have a place for it, you
Yeah,
have a system
yes.
for it. It's fine. It's
Yeah,
not hoarding.
So I've got
The moment you have spares upon spares upon.
So you have
I mean, I definitely have spots in my home which are definitely my little hoarding spots, right? And I should probably just kick everything out of there. But the fear of what will happen if I ever need this in the coming year or two, right, is just keeping it there. We all have a little hoarder in us, unfortunately. It all just depends on the volume.
Well,
I mean,
I
something
already
like this, you already know how to do it, right?
Mhm.
It's something that you, let's put it this way. There's a chance that your neighbor, right, if you're in good communication with them, right, if you're with a good relationship with them, it's something that you might, you'll get to save the day. And you're the type of person, I think we're all four of us are the type of people who we really like the idea that we have something that somebody else will want, and we can, we can be there for them. So sometimes it's not just hoarding; it's just because of that rush of how much we enjoy helping. And sometimes we are the benefactors, and sometimes it's somebody else. So
Yeah.
it's okay. It's not a bad idea or anything. But both are okay. Relying on the system around you, right, or just being self-reliant.
Problem is, as we get older, somebody will come up to you and say, "Do you have any Depends?" And I'll say, "What size do you need?"
So I ordered the part yesterday. I was just curious what everybody's thoughts were.
Yeah.
were
Now,
on it.
Nick,
What, you hoarder?
Nick, just think about this. That beautiful girl next door. That when just imagine this is your key.
I don't think you know where I live. So. No, when you say the person next door, you're talking about this 75-year-old man that cuts his lawn with his shirt off. So no, I'm good.
No, he's talking
I'm more
about
than
the
okay.
girl on his tattoo.
Oh boy.
I'm
Anyway, yeah, no, you certain things, and it's personal. You're right. I mean, some people that will be hoarding. For other people, that will be prepared, and it all depends what you're prepared with. Anyway,
Well, I just installed that system that Gal mentioned
on the Home Assistant machine.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, and I'm gonna play with it and see if it'll be helpful. Because
Of
it would
course
be
you're
nice,
gonna-
especially.
You do.
I
have
don't
to
care. The big use case for it is it seems like it's built for food. People keeping track of what they've got in their fridge.
So what do
I
you
don't intend on using it for that, but
what do you have to do? You have to put sensors on the food and on every engine.
it requires you to keep track of stuff.
Yeah.
Barcodes
But
on
also,
everything.
there's also
The Windows version
companion
of it.
project. There's a companion project for a barcode scanner, and you can use your phone as a barcode scanner. It is actually a very interesting project. It's
Wow.
just the data entry, the initial data entry is going to be hell.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter which home you're going to implement it in. So I was looking at it, and it was really, really inviting. But the data entry is just chore that I don't want to go into.
You're going to need.
But Nick, I would think that even in your case, right, a single person living alone at home, if your household at this point, if you will be able to make the effort of that data entry, I think going forward, you're definitely gonna benefit from it. But I don't
I'm sure.
know. Yeah.
So there's, by the way, this is not just something you have to run on a home system. There's a Windows app. It's in the Windows App Store, and you can download the exe, so you can just run this on your computer.
This is a really awesome project. I recommend people taking a look at it.
Well, I like this idea of, especially for, again, the use case, it shows meal prepping and cookbooking and things like that. I don't anticipate to use it for that, but for equipment and parts and things of that nature, it seems like a pretty good idea. So thank you, Gal.
Nick, you need to catalog all the different kinds of pasta you have in your closet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's exactly the idea.
You got it.
And there is an app, the iPhone and Android app, that you can connect with it.
There's an app for
and
that.
it syncs and it works, and it's I mean, this project is pretty awesome. I really believe that Amazon and Google, they will probably commandeer that space in the future.
Oh,
I mean, part of
Amazon specifically.
Yeah,
with the,
I mean, part of what
A word.
the A word is about is exactly this. they want to have an inventory of your home, and they want to help you get it there get to that point as easily as possible. It's just not really possible without a lot of hard work at the first time. So if you are into ERPing your home, right? And this looks like a nice idea. This is your chance to do it on your own terms, with your own database, and do it in a very, I think, I would say, as ERP goes, there is no such thing as an efficient ERP. But as ERP goes, this one is a beautiful piece of software. So
Eleanor says, Nick, notebook, pens, and paper. It works great. Oh,
Yeah,
it
but
does.
then-
agrees.
But then you have to keep record of where you left your notebook.
Precise. Precise. No, and that's what you
Yeah.
run into.
And when you're at the supermarket, if that notebook is back home, then that's starting to be a
Yeah.
There's
problem.
a supermarket chain, I don't remember which one it is, that they experimented with having a tablet on every cart, and you would log in
Hmm.
to your tablet. I'm not sure where it was. It might be in Europe. But you just shared your database of stuff you needed, and all you had to do was go into the store and log in, and there you got your list, you got your stuff. They told you what aisle, what shelf.
Well, you can do that with the Amazon application, the
Yeah.
Target application, right? You can create a shopping list.
Yep.
And when you open that shopping list in the store, it tells you what aisle. It shows you a map. They are definitely getting there, right? Now, think of combining that with an application where you actually store your data of your home, and it does it for you without relying on the external data sources or without giving all of your information outside. Now that's starting to be interesting, right? So
I think it's also advantageous. After all, you don't want necessarily you be sharing this stuff, because in the future, when they start to say, well, you use too many
Exactly.
of these,
yeah,
and we need to cut back on how many you buy, and
Yeah.
yeah.
there's a version that North Korea is developing.
For what? For nuclear?
No, for home grocery ERP.
Yeah, here's a list of 2 things you're allowed to buy. Which one do you want to buy?
They probably will use a database light. It only it will probably be limited to about 10 items. Anyway, listen to this here. Intel removed the security feature SGX, which stands for Software Guard Extensions, from processors of the 11th and newer generations. Problem is, the feature is one of the requirements to play Ultra HD Blu-ray discs on computer systems.
I say good.
Huh?
I say good.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you have, it goes, the Ultra HD Blu-ray format, often referred to as a 4K Ultra HD or 4K Blu-ray, supports 4K UHD playback with a pixel resolution of 3840 by 2160 on PCs. One of the requirements for playback of Ultra HD Blu-ray discs on PC is that SGX is supported by the installed processor and by the motherboard firmware. So now you can't do it anymore. It says
Or-
DRM requirements for Ultra HD Blu-ray disc. Besides SGX, playback is protected by HDCP 2.2 and AACS 2.0, with some discs using 2.1. So
Basically, in
if you
3
have
months,
if you have
like
a col-
Canon,
yeah,
right? We're gonna get a notification on how to bypass the SGX requirement, and
From Intel.
everything's gonna be okay.
yeah.
And
Of course,
suddenly,
the main
Blu-ray will
question
also
is-
work in Linux.
What the main question is, what's a Blu-ray disc?
Exactly. That's what I'd say. That's why I said good. I mean, I know a lot of people still play Blu-ray, but it's time to ditch that. It's literally time to ditch that physical medium that hasn't brought anything substantially good to the environment, to the system, to the. I mean, let's face it. It's an obsolete piece of media.
Well, but people may have a collection, and
Yeah, but they started a collection on an obsolete piece of media
yeah,
as it started. So, I mean, it's read the signs.
I have a collection of VHS, so I still watch.
Are you
Yeah,
saying
but
it's
I had one, and what we did is we transferred everything to a
Yeah,
hard drive,
right.
and now it's everything in this
Yeah.
the two hard drives because they're in mirror mode because they are safe, right? And that's it.
so it's the
I
Betamax of media, huh?
Definitely. I mean,
anybody
DVD was obsolete the moment it came out.
I heard
It-
RCA laser discs are coming back with
we
the
had
stylus. Do you remember that? It wasn't even
Ah,
optical. It was a stylus. Literally
what?
had a stylus that would play the discs. And there were two competing things at the time. There was laser discs, and then was the RCA video disc, they called it. And it was playing with a stylus. I remember going into a electronics store downtown Manhattan when I worked in Manhattan to watch the takeoff of the first space shuttle in the early 80s, right? And while I was waiting, a bunch of us were all in there. We just went to watch. We were walking around the store and looking, oh, which is better, the RCA video disc or the new, I guess it was Pioneer or Sony had the other optical laser disc. They were both fantastically expensive. But the salesman was trying to push, no, the RCA one with the stylus. I said, a stylus. So how many times can you play it before it wears out?
Hmm.
Oh, well. And then VHS came along and made it obsolete. So anyways.
It was called Select Division.
Yeah.
RCAs. And I just threw a link in chat of this guy, Technology Connections, who's a phenomenal YouTuber, who did, I think, a 2 or 3 part series on the CED, which is the disc that you're describing, the essentially more condensed vinyl record disc used to play video.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
So if you
Not the laser disc, which used an optical reader.
You scratch it, you're watching a movie, you'll get this point where the movie will just jump.
Yeah.
Or if you bump into the table that has the player, it'll just wait, I got to go back and watch that part again. I missed it. What do I do?
Could you raise the arm and move it? That was the backwards. Anyway,
Yeah.
accounts of more than 3 million users of the US-based FlexBooker appointment scheduling service have been stolen in an attack before the holidays and are now being traded on hacker forums. The same intruders are offering databases claiming to be from 2 other entities, Racing Media Organization, racing.com, and Redborn Group, ReadyCase, both from Australia. Among FlexBooker's customers are owners of any business that needs to schedule appointments, which is everything from accountants, barbers, doctors, mechanics, lawyers, dentists, blah, 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 go on. So if I don't know that you would know that you are on FlexBooker, because I've got the feeling that that's the provider, but it's probably named for different people. It names different way. But if it anything of scheduling, appointment scheduling, you need to find out if it's associated with FlexBooker. All
I
right.
wonder if Have I Been Pawned already has that database, because that would be a good place to check.
True. And it says that it was before the holidays. So maybe. And I think this is. Oh, and Netflix raised its monthly subscription now by $1 to $2 per month in the United States, depending on the plan. The company said on Friday to help pay for the programming to compete in the crowded streaming TV market. So the standard plan, which allows for 2 simultaneous streams now costs $15.49 per month, up from $13.99 in the States. Prices also went up in Canada, where the standard plan climbed to 16.49 Canadian dollars from 14.99. The price increase, the first in those markets since October 2020, took effect immediately for new customers. Existing members will see the new prices in the coming weeks when they receive their monthly bill. So yeah, it's going up. You remember when it was $8?
I remember when it was.
Sheesh.
Yeah, I think it started at 5, but
We started with 8.
with I, but yeah, I mean, VPN is about $35 a year.
Yeah. Okay. It's time. Anything else? I was just checking the radar and it looks like it's just raining outside. So that's good. Earlier than what I thought.
As long as they're gonna clear the landing strips before we land, I don't care.
Oh, they've
Oh,
got good de-icing stuff over there. Won't
Yeah.
be a problem.
Well, if you see them putting skis on the plane before you take off,
Yeah, I'll. That's
No.
when I'll put on the seatbelt and hug the floating cushion.
They're going to have not skis. They're going to have ice skates.
grappling hooks they can throw out as they
Grappling.
land, drag along the runway.
I wonder why they never use at airports those cables that stop the the
Arrestor
F-16s
wires?
yeah, arresting
Yeah.
wires.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm just thinking of the jolt inside an airplane like that. It's like
Yeah.
but then they can say any terrain.
I mean, they can do that without. The jolt can be fixed by the seat in front of you just popping a bag that will stay there, and you're, just for the landing. But I don't know. That's a good idea. Never thought of that. They also don't need as much. Well, no, they need it for takeoff. Of course, they could use the same thing for takeoff.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
really, really powerful
Yeah.
jets.
Yeah. No,
I
they
mean,
can
that's
use.
part of
They can
that's
use.
part of Musk's concept of the hemisphere rocket, the rockets that go up and come back, Tokyo to New York in an hour and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Anything else, guys?
Nope.
Nothing. All right.
Nada.
Well, that was fun. That was fun. Thanks, Spence. I hope you feel better. And we didn't. I don't know if you want to talk about
Oh.
tell people what's going on.
Yeah, I was got some symptoms coming back from a week in Florida, and on Saturday afternoon, I guess I felt like a tickle in my throat, and just then I got this headache, like my face hurt bad, my teeth hurt. I couldn't touch the front of my face, just the weirdest thing. And so I said, I think this sounds consistent with something. So I went and got tested. It took 3.5 days to get the test back.
Oh, thank
I
God.
went to a free public testing place right here in Apex, which we've gone before. It was always 24 hours and 3.5 days, but I was positive. But the worst of it was already over. I mean, I had a day of chills and fever and just feeling really rotten and sleeping a lot. And since then, it's just get really tired. I feel pretty good, sleeping better. But it was, thank goodness, not a big deal. So,
Yeah, I
and I'm
hear that
glad.
tired spells they're the ones that prevail the longest.
And I have no sense of smell. And I keep checking, and it's not there yet.
But you're up and around, and that's what
Up and
counts
around,
at
and I'm
this
very
point.
grateful to people that I was around. Everybody's quarantined out, no issues. Pam, looks like Pam has it too, but she was tested the same time as me, and she was negative. But now she's had more symptoms that lead us to believe that she probably has it too, mild
Yeah. You
coughing.
probably had it first, just and
Yeah, I had it
just
first,
took
yeah,
time
probably.
until she
Yeah.
got it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's a
then,
bummer.
so I'm
But,
hoping to test out this week.
The fact that you don't have sense of smell doesn't mean you can, keep on farting, right?
I'm bulletproof, man. I tell you.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, but out of research I've done, encouraging, I went to several people that do podcasts on a daily basis about just collecting statistics from around the world and all that. And they're saying that probably in the United States now, there's not much Delta left. And they think that 95% of the cases that are positive in the US now are Omicron, and that they're statistically just not as bad. They don't involve as much lungs. They said the big difference is that between long COVID and this particular COVID, long COVID is the lasting, just the fact that your body gets so infected, your lungs get infected, all your organs get infected so badly, it takes forever to get back from it. That this just primarily is your upper respiratory system. And that's much easier to deal with. And I think that's why we're lucky we're not going to have the long-term recovery.
All right, let's
effects.
stop this
So,
before they flag us.
okay. No, that's positive. I can't.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. I don't know.
All
I
right.
don't know anything about it.
Spence, thanks. Thanks for you getting up and actually working yourself to get on the show.
Well, no,
Or
was it?
Go
I
back,
just,
go back.
Yeah.
Rest.
um,
Nick, thanks. Good morning again. And Gal, say hi to everybody up there. You're coming back this week. Yeah.
Yeah. Tuesday I'm already back.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for maneuvering to get on the show.
Yeah, no, fun.
Yep. And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie and Dana, Dina, Arlet and Micha, Eleanor, Sarid. Thanks, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing, back up your hard drive, and update your virus scanner. We'll be here next Sunday at 9. But you can always reach us at computers2know.com. And again, remember, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., Nick is doing his daily show on Wilmington's 980 The Wave and 107.9 FM. And you can listen to the recordings at nickcraig.com. You can also listen to it through your Amazon device. Just tell it to play 980 The Wave. On Tuesdays, 7 p.m., Nick and Brian do the Infection Podcast on Twitch, and this is for survival games. So 7 p.m. Tuesday, you just go to twitch.tv/Infection Podcast, no space, if you're into games. See you later, everybody. Stay safe.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.